We're going to be trying to look at defining point cuts using the within designator. So previously in the playlist linked below that like button, we've gone over aspect configuration. This is code that we've configured many videos ago, and now we're just using it to demonstrate a lot of things that we can do with our aspect oriented programming. So inside of here, we're going to go back up here to where we had our point cuts, and we've dealt with these previously. Remember when we had these point cuts, we could run our main, and then we would have like a specific thing print out for a specific thing. That's because all of these need to be independent, but we're able to join them together very easily. So with our point cuts, we can see that I have a lot of things commented out. These are just different kinds of like ways that these can be printed. So I believe we went over these last time. These are very similar if we have not gone over them. This point cut right here, we have our execution again. It's very similar to what we've had previously. We have this as an add. I think we've gone over this one. And so now we are going to be looking at some other ones that we can have. Our within. This is new. In our within, it's going to be basically saying this is happening within this class right here. So if we open our project, we can see that we have our com, Lunicorn, point, and then the cuts. So we are in our com Lunicorn and then point cuts. Now this is within what? Well, this is all going to be within our item. So previously in here, we had a pass certain things for execution. This is more of like parameter wise. You can see that this is like parameter wise. This one's just checking the file. So that's the difference with our within right here. So previous video we dealt with our point cut execution. This one is our within. They are slightly different, so they're going to yield slightly different like results. So this one right here, our within, we can see that we have this method inside of here. And this method is the same one that's in right here. So we're basically saying before this, we want to print this out. And this is going to be our list access right here. And then inside of this one, it's going to be very similar where we have our within, com.lunicorn, point cuts. Instead of having our item list, we are now going to be checking all of everything inside of here. So we have our item and item list that we're going to be checking. Very similar to what we've done previously. So that's just going to be the same thing right here. This is what's going with here. It's going to be the same thing as like line 42. If we call a specific thing that's in our item list, if we call something that's in our item list, it's going to use this, and it's going to use this one. Same thing with line 31 as well. All their methods will match, as well as their getter and setters for each class. So line 31 is going to be this one right here. We can see we have an execution, and again, like I said, it's very similar to this, even though it's slightly different. We have our two asterisks right here. We have our dot add asterisk here, and then this is going to be int, and then we have kind of like a path right here. So when we go into our item, we can see it's going to be the same thing. Actually, I think it's item list. It's going to be the same way how we have this add right here. So we again configure our path. We have our item. Actually, I think this should be, like I said, item list. And then from here, it's going to be the same way that we have it in the previous ones. If we look down, we can see that they have this item list where within, and this one also is going to be within our item list because it is just the asterisk, so it's going to include all of that. So that's how this would look. These are all of our different point cuts. They all go to different befores. This one goes to this before. This one goes to this before. Typically the pointers are all up top, but the way I have them is just that it's easier to see for demonstration purposes how they are linked. We can always smoosh them together a little bit, but the before underneath it is the before that it's kind of assigned to. But again, it can like accompany multiple things. So if we go into our main, we can run this, pull this up, and we can see a lot has happened inside of here. We have our list accessed for all of these right here. It's accessing our display item list, add item to list, add item to list, add item to list, add item to list for all of these. So let's see what this is doing. Now what I should have done is actually probably made these a little bit different. So I'll make these percentage signs, I'll make these ones dollar signs, and that way we can be able to see the actual differences between each of these. So I'm going to run it again. We can scroll back up here. We can see that we have an and. We are percentage, ampersand, percentage, ampersand percentage. The first is this add item to list right here. We're passing in an item 3. So if we go to our aspect config, we can scroll up here, and we know that we have an ampersand and a percentage sign. So that means that this ampersand is going to run first, and then this percentage sign is going to run after that. And that just has to do with how this is configured. The ampersand looks over all of these first, and then we have the actual specific class right here. That's, again, for this single add item to list. Notice how we have it for both of these right here. And this is because when we have our ampersand, this is for all of the classes, and this one is for the specific item list, which this add item to list is inside. Now, it's going to be very similar for our add item to list index, and then we are going to have our display item list right here for this display item list. And then we have our method right here. So our method is going to print out like honey, and we can see that we have a get item ID, get item name, and all this right here. And then we print out bread, and then we have all of the same information right here, but we don't have the same for milk and butter. So why is that? Let's figure that out. So for our honey, we can see that nothing was accessed right here. Remember, these all happen before something happens. So this, if we had some like list access right here, it should have happened before honey. Well, why is that? Well, remember, honey is item 4. We're adding it into our list right here. So we should add it in, and we should be able to call like this right here, this execution. But we are not going to do that because of just how it's added in. It's added in inside of here. And this is going to be the same for our butter. So we're adding it inside of our main method. So that means that butter right here is not going to have any getters before it. All these getters right here is for our milk. And that's because our milk is already a bean inside of here, like this. Just like our bread right here. Bread is these right here. And so with our milk and bread already inside of here as beans, because these access beans, we can go into our aspect config, and we can see why this happens. Well, inside of our list right here, we have our within, and it's going to be within this package because of the star. It's within that class, within any class. This one specifically are item lists, which these are not in. Remember, the getters are in our item, so that's why we would only access this last one and print out our and. Now, if we wanted to not have it just be in our item list, or if we wanted it to be in the other class, we can make this item, and then we can go into our main, and we can run this. We can see that inside of here, we have our ands, we have our ampersand, and ampersand, we have basically these symbols again. We have all these symbols because it fulfills both point cuts. So I'm just going to change it back so we don't have so much inside of here. We're going to change that back to item list. That's going to be it for this kind of look over all of our point cuts. Next, we're going to be looking at defining composite point cuts. So this, we were just defining point cuts using the within designator. We've just been looking at a different way we can use within instead of execution, and then an example. Basically, the difference is that execution, we have to have these like parameters inside of here, and within is just checking if it's within something. But those can be found below that like really cool like button in the description.